morning, Vancouver and fellow viewers. My name is Maria for WOW TV, and welcome to another segment of the Georgia Straight Weekly with Chief Editor Charlie Smith. How are you doing today?
Oh, very well, Maria. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be here as well. Now, on the cover of this week's issue is Julia Kwan. She's a Vancouver director. And what can you tell us about her?
Julie Kwan's very interesting in that she's a Vancouver-born filmmaker, and she made a film more than a decade ago called Even the Fire Horse. And it was an autobiographical, kind of this surreal type film, and it did extremely well. So at the Sundance Film Festival, which is one of the best-known film festivals in the world, it received rave reviews. And so Julia was on her way and seen as a great filmmaker, someone up and coming. But then she had cancer. So it was quite sad, and she fought it, and she's overcome it. And so now, after going through this tremendous ordeal, she's come back with a new film. And this is a documentary basically looking at Chinatown, how Chinatown's evolving through the eyes of several people. And it's a National Film Board documentary, and it's called Everything Will Be. So as you see on the picture, she's standing right beside Chinatown. And so Julia's back. She's made a great film. It's premiering on Monday, September 29th at the Vancouver International Film Festival, and it'll have 3 screenings, and I'm expecting large audiences, partly because it's the Vancouver Film Festival, which is always crowded, but secondly, because it's a local film made by a local filmmaker who's very, very popular within the Vancouver film community. Like, she's quite beloved. So Julia's back, and she's got a new film, and I think we're all very happy to see this.
Wow, that's amazing. I really want to watch it now that you've told me the backstory about it. Now, she's part of the Vancouver Film Festival. What can you tell us about the festival itself?
Well, it's become such a major event on the calendar. It's, you know, the huge audiences. Sometimes it's even hard to get tickets for the event.
Wow.
And so the film festival it's a little different than Toronto. Toronto's festival is quite celebrity driven. So you see all the celebrities walking the red carpets and all of that. And we have some of that, but not to the same degree. I think this is a festival, the vision for many years was Alan Franey, who was choosing films very carefully, and it has a real global feel to it, films from around the world, plus a solid selection of BC films. So one of the challenges that the Vancouver Film Festival faced last year was the key venue was the Granville 7 Theatre. So that was kind of the ground zero for the film festival. But what happened was that building has closed now. So they lost, it was a challenge last year because people wondered, well, how is the film festival going to get by without this major venue? And also the Ridge Theatre is another independent theatre that is closed. But they've managed to come up with other approaches, and they're using the center, the former Centre for the Performing Arts in Vancouver, which is a big theatre. You know, you can fit, I think the capacity is 1,800 there. So they can have major screenings there. And the film festival's, you know, doing well, and it's one of the major cultural attractions in Vancouver.
Definitely, I definitely see a lot of marketing for it and advertising everywhere right now. What are some of the film genres that stand out to you this time?
Well, this week, one of our writers, Ken Eisner, has written a series about a lot of the health films, and one of them features Glenn Campbell, who's a famous old singer who's battling Alzheimer's, but he's able to continue performing as a musician. So it's looking at how somehow music can break through even when somebody is dealing with, you know, a fairly devastating neurological disease. So Ken has reviewed some of the health films, and particularly as they relate to the brain. There's another series that Janet Smith, one of our writers, has written about cathedrals and spirituality. And then there's the BC films, and then they have these late night kind of offbeat films, Altered States. So Adrian Mack has written about them. But one of the major films at this festival is called the Vancouver Asahi. And this is about a baseball team that was in Japantown in Vancouver in the 1930s. It's a great film, according to Craig Takeuchi, who's watched it and written it. It stars major Japanese stars, and it was actually filmed in Japan. So it's a Japanese film about the history of Vancouver. And the Vancouver Asahi, there was a lot of discrimination in that era. But this baseball team was very popular. They'd play at Oppenheimer Park. And it was all the Japanese Canadians would have their own team. And they weren't as big as some of the Caucasian players. So they would win with brains and guile and speed. And they won several city championships. And they had many white fans in a time when there was a lot of racial discrimination. But what the tragedy, and it's so sad, is how it ended for the Vancouver Asahi was when the Japanese government bombed Pearl Harbor. They took all the Japanese Canadians, most of whom were Canadian born, 22,000 of them, and they said, we don't want them living on the West Coast because they're a security threat, because Canada was at war with Japan. So what happened was they took all the Japanese Canadians, they seized their assets, their fishing boats in Steveston, businesses in Japantown, which is along Powell Street, and moved them to camps in the interior. Some of them were working in the forest industry in Alberta. And that was the end of Vancouver Asahi. So the baseball team ended. And now, a few years ago, they were put in the BC Sports Hall of Fame. And so now they're seen as, for their accomplishments. But it's very interesting that filmmakers in Japan have decided this is such a compelling story. And Craig was telling me that he felt that the film was almost a parable of Japan. Japan is the underdog. Japan is trying to come back. Japan is going against the world. Japan is trying to overcome the Fukushima nuclear disaster. But they still managed to do extremely well in the face of long odds. And so that the Vancouver Asahi team is almost a microcosm of what's happening in Japan. So I'm looking forward to that film.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And also, Japan's going to be hosting the Olympics in 2020, so
Yeah.
they're coming back strong.